Omnisphere and Trillion have several great performance features. This video will cover two of them, Latch Mode and Trigger Mode. Although these features will be demonstrated in Omnisphere, they also apply to Trillion. Let's take a look at Latch Mode first. I've loaded an arpeggiated patch in Omnisphere. As expected, when I play my keys on the MIDI controller, the patch will play. When I lift my hands from the keyboard, the patch will stop. On this area of the GUI, you'll find this latch button. And if I toggle it, I can play, and when I lift my hands from the keyboard, the patch will keep playing. And I can add notes to this arpeggiation by simply playing them. And I can remove notes by playing them again. Toggling the latch button will make all notes stop. Cool, now you've got the basic idea behind Latch Mode. Now let's take a look at Trigger Mode. I've loaded this rhythmic patch. Normally, sounds are triggered as soon as you press the keys, but sometimes it can be difficult to play exactly in sync with other parts or instruments. Trigger Mode is a great solution for this because it can quantize your MIDI input in real time, allowing you to play in sync with other parts, instruments, or tracks in the host. You can access the different Trigger Mode options from this menu. In immediate mode, there's no quantizing at all, and the sound will begin playing as soon as you press the keys. This is the default setting. When set to next 16th, the notes will start playing on the next 16th note after you press the keys. When set to next beat, the notes will start playing on the next quarter note after you press the keys. And then when set to next bar, the notes will start playing at the beginning of the next bar after you've pressed the keys. I'll set this part to next beat, and you can see that a quarter note is displayed. I'm working on a few tracks in my host where I'm using Trillion for bass and RMX for percussion. I'll hit play. Now since this part is set to next beat, whatever I play on my keyboard will be in sync with the host. Let's try it. This feature also allows me to browse through different rhythmic patches, which will be in sync with the host. It also means that I can try different sounds in context with what I'm working on. I can try any sound in the library, and it just works. Alright, so now that you have a basic idea of how Latch and Trigger modes work, let's check out just how useful these features can be when working in live mode. I've created a live mode multi. Clicking on the Latch button gives you access to the Latch and Trigger mode parameters for each part. Toggling this L will enable or disable Latch for part 1. Trigger mode can be accessed from this menu. This stop button over here will send an all notes off message to all parts, and that's useful for stopping latched parts which are playing in the background. Let's set up this multi for live performance. This particular multi has a few rhythmic patches and a few non-rhythmic patches, so I'll set the trigger modes accordingly. Part 1 has a rhythmic synth bass pattern, so I'll set it to next beat. Part 2 has a pad, so I'll leave it as is in immediate. Part 3 has another rhythmic patch, which I'll set to next beat. Part 4 has a dance-oriented hit, and no matter at which point in the bar I trigger it, I always want it to play at the beginning of a bar, so I'll set it to next bar. In this part, I've loaded a patch from Trillion, because Omnisphere allows you to load Trillion patches. This is not a rhythmic patch, but I'll set it to next 16th, which will allow me to play busy parts and stay in sync. The next two parts have rhythmic patches, which I'll set to next beat, and I'll set this 16th note shaker pattern to next bar. Okay, now I'm going to play something while I switch through the parts and latch them using the mouse. Let's check it out. You gotta admit that's really cool. Now let's try something slightly different. I've created a different live mode multi, and since the latch and trigger mode features are oriented for real-time performance, it can be useful to use a hardware controller. In this case, I have a Korg Nano Control. We've provided a template and a scene set for it, so let's set it up. Navigate to your Spectrasonics folder, Steam, Omnisphere, Settings Library, Presets, MIDI Learn. In this folder, you'll find the Omnisphere MIDI Learn template, the scene set for the Nano Control, and a README file with information on how to set it up. Before getting started, make sure you have the Korg Control Editor installed, which you can download from Korg's website. Now, I'll double-click on the scene set, which will automatically open in the editor. And from the Communication menu, select Write Scene Set. Keep in mind that this action will overwrite all the information in the Nano Control, so you may want to back up the current settings before going ahead with this. I'll select it and click OK on the warning message, and that's it. Now, let's go to Omnisphere. I'll go to the Utility menu, MIDI Learn and Automation, and Load Template. This automatically takes me to the MIDI Learn Presets folder. I'll select Nano Control Live Latch Template and click Open. There, my Nano Control is ready to control Omnisphere. Sliders 1 through 8 control part levels. Slider 9 controls the master level. Knobs 1 through 8 control aux2 send, which is usually delay. Knob 9 controls the master filter for all parts, so you can apply filtering to all parts from a single hardware control. Now the buttons. The lower row of buttons control part selection. The upper row of buttons controls the latch for each part. This stop button controls the All Notes Off button in Omnisphere. Alright, now let's try playing something. As you can see, trying different ideas using latch and trigger modes along with live mode can lead to some very interesting results. Now let's check out how to use these features in stack mode. I've loaded a multi with a few non-tonal rhythmic patches on this area of the keyboard, a rhythmic synth bass patch on this area, 2 layered rhythmic patches over here, and an acoustic string patch over here. In stack mode, whenever a part is latched or set to a trigger mode other than immediate, that will be reflected between parentheses next to the name of the patch. For example, part 1 is latched and set to next beat, while part 7 is not latched. And since trigger mode is not specified in parentheses like in the other parts, that means it's set to immediate. Those settings can be changed for each part by right-clicking on them, which will give you access to a menu with all the trigger mode options, latch, and the All Notes Off function. For example, if I want to latch this acoustic string patch, I can do it by selecting Latch Mode. There. You'll notice the word latch is added next to the patch name. To unlatch it, I'll right-click on it and select Latch Mode again. That's it. But what if I want to do this remotely from, in this case, my Korg Nano Control? Well, I can still do that because all of the MIDI Learn assignments we talked about previously are still functioning. I can latch part 7 by simply pressing this button. Or I can latch parts 5 and 6 by doing this. It's that simple. Now, here's a tip. Even if you want to use stack mode, you can set up your hardware controller by MIDI learning the latch switches and the All Notes Off button in the Live Mode page, and those assignments will still work in stack mode. Now, I'll unlatch part 1, which is the rhythmic synth bass, and try playing something. Very cool. The latch and trigger mode features really extend the multi-timbral performance capabilities of Omnisphere and Trillion. Used together, they enable a wide range of creative performance, live remixing, and composition techniques to discover and explore. Have fun trying some of these ideas.